Reporting on for 28 Adams.
14, you're responding. 28 Adams Street, phone number 11903. South Command, file on Patrick. This was an overheated vehicle, let police handle. An overheated vehicle, let police handle 1904. Still calling to Germany, latitude and 30 back to service. Command terminated, latitude and 3 in service, 1905. Control. Alright, 9. The vehicle's been moved properly legally. We'll be clear. Thank you. 20, 15, 03. You know, I'm clear now. You got some hold. 3 3/4. I got 3 1/4.
Get clear.
Well, I'm not a different quarter. 2 3/4.
What is 14 going to?
14 on the sand. Resident Center, 762 Weston Ave on the perimeter door alarm. Roger. Go to 11.
Okay. You want to open it? Yeah. Have a good day. Yeah, I think so. Have a good night. Okay. Well, we're talking about got my first lobster today. 71. And it's good breeze. Hello. Got my first lobster today. And I only put the trap in yesterday. Hello. not one of the. Yeah. 5 men yesterday, 5 men today. I'm fine. I'm fine. I was gonna say, get some lunch.
I don't think anybody else is on yet.
Just heard a voice.
What is working on what about?
14 transporting cell hospital.
How did it get cut from a day? So your feet trailer, garage somewhere? Yeah, but we've already declared a state of emergency, watershed. There's a wildfire somewhere, telephone will be out of the way. What was that time? Now it's young thing.
That's Steve's going up. Roger.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's people in the room already.
Okay, we'll do it. I've been talking to some of the local ones that get here, they're both small. And we have one for a thing, 100. We bought a boat, sailboat. And I was working on it. The other sailors working on their boats.
You all be in there, Mike.
Over here.
Huh?
I don't see anybody there. I see all these folks, but
You hear them?
He tried to row out the clam, and he couldn't accomplish that. I thought he doesn't have a rope to begin with. He couldn't even get it off the ramp. I think we're trying to help him. But, I looked over. Inflatable boats. Brought my traps down late, a couple hours later. I saw the inflatable boat was kind of the original boat. Wow.
17 control. Alright. Gonna be confirmed next now. There's a key hold on. Team just waiting for someone to come down and shut the alarm off.
Comes out around 6 o'clock tonight. He's taking no attention to the boat. Walking along up the steps.
Somebody there? Kristen?
Alan,
Oh, good. I never know if I'm going to get into this thing or not.
we got you.
How's things going?
Okay, we've got a lot of people on here.
That's what I heard, 15.
Yeah.
Well, we only have a few people who really want stuff. Well, we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes.
Uh-huh. Anything new and interesting?
Not really.
I understand. I gotta take my jacket off. It's getting too hot in here. Hold on a sec. Okay, so is everybody on?
Not yet.
Okay.
Is somebody from the town on that started the Zoom meeting by any chance? Or no? Okay.
I'll be glad when this Zoom stuff is over. Hey, luck it'll be soon.
So the problem is whoever from the town started the meeting didn't give me host control, so I can't share the screen or anything. And I can't get a hold of Tony Barletta.
Hey, Kristen, it's Michelle. So whoever logged in first from the audience may have the host.
Ah,
So if some person would like to send that to Kristen her way, then I think that might solve your problem.
thank you, Michelle. Does anybody, who was on first? Anybody know?
You're sure not us.
John, Dick, were you on first by any chance?
It's possible.
Was anybody
you
else
go.
in here when you got on?
There were a couple of people on, but I don't know who they were. One
Okay.
of them got up and left while I was headed out the door.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can figure out what to do about this.
Joe Mellon was on when I got in.
Joe, were you first?
Hello,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, I've been a little out of the loop here.
That's okay. Joe, were you on first? So somebody's going to need to transfer host to me. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do this.
The other thing you might do is to have everybody leave the meeting and then you stay on it or you log in first. And that way you can be sure you get control of it.
We could also do that.
Kristen, this is Sean Hardy with Hardy and Man Design Group.
Hey, Sean.
When I click on participants and look, I do not see anyone listed as host, and it gives me the option down the bottom right to claim host. You might be able to do that.
Claim host. Enter the host key.
So no, I guess. It was a good try.
Let me see if they sent me the host key. I don't know if they did.
Oh, I lost my glasses.
Kristen Taylor. She did not send me the host key.
Dave, you were on, Dave Aldridge, you were on pretty soon. Do you by any chance get host key? You're muted.
Hey, Kristen, I have Zach Taylor's telephone number if you want to see if we can get Kristen's telephone number.
Mark, when I got on, Kathy Fallarmi was on.
Familari.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tom, you don't have it. You were on after me.
Yeah, I think the Northeastern logo was up there when I came on.
That's Joe Mellon, who doesn't seem to be responding that much. Oh, he said he was second.
So while Kristen is trying to sort that out, let me see if I can ask others to educate me. I was unable to find any place to get to a blue hyperlink to get into this meeting. And I had to key in that long string of numbers that was shown in the PDF posted notice. So is there some secret that you all know that I don't know?
I went to our
Yes.
ad in the news, on the newspaper, and copied it from there. But I have,
Or Michael, if you just, it's Candace, if you just go to Zoom and type in use the password and the ID that's included in the invitation or the announcement.
The password and the ID as opposed to the long URL, which is the Zoom
Yes.
code.
So you open up Zoom and then in the field for, I think it says, I don't know, participant ID or something, you type in that first long 6-digit number and then you type in the password.
Well, that's good to know.
It's easier. I learned the hard way too.
Well, is this part of everybody's born with knowledge, or does everybody
No,
have to learn it the
We
hard way?
learn just like you do. The same way you are. That's how we all learned.
Okay. Then
By
it
accident.
seems to me
Pandemic knowledge.
it would behoove the organizers of these things to, anytime any publicity is given out, to basically build a blue URL so that we can all get out of these things with one single bloody click instead of having to look things up and enter even 6-digit.
I think because it's a copy of a page, you can't create a link in that document.
Well, I'm sorry, I should have said it another way. I think on the town's website should be posted a blue URL that would allow everybody to get on it with one click.
Yeah, well, that's not up to me, but it does work if you just type in the participant ID and the use the password.
Great, thank you very kindly for that.
Joe says he was second and Kathleen Martin was first.
Are we waiting for this to open?
I don't see a Kathy Martin on here.
Yeah, she's at Martin. Kathleen Martin is on. She's not showing video, but she's got audio. I just sent her a chat.
I just texted Kristen Taylor and left her a message. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we can start, and then we just can't look at anything. We can't share screens so anybody can see anything that's going on. So if she gets back to me, we'll adjust accordingly. Okay, it is Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. It is 7:37 p.m. This is a meeting of the Nahant Conservation Commission. First on the agenda is the request for determination of applicability for 163 Willow Road. Remove and replace the existing deck in land subject to coastal storm flowage. John, do you want to?
Yes, good evening. I want to apologize first. I gave you a filing that has a plan that is at least misleading and probably just plain wrong. Somehow or other, I managed to show the back deck and the entrance to the house, when in fact what I meant to do was to show the entrance to the house and the side deck, the deck that looks out over the yard toward the water. Today, Kristen, I sent you a revised plan indicating that condition. Everything else in the determination remains the same. All of this activity is repairs or small enlargements to existing structures that are more than 50 feet from the coastal bank. And in fact, they're all in the existing yard. The entrance steps are unsound. They're in the process of replacing some of the structure now so that people won't fall off the steps when they step out the front door. And the deck on the side of the house has been removed for the same reason. It was unstable and wasn't safe for people to walk on. So that's where we stand now. Other than that, the request for the determination of applicability is accurate. And I did, as I said, I emailed you a plan today. I regret my oversight on this. I should have taken care of that long ago. Can I answer any questions about this?
I was hoping to be able to share it with the commission, but I not share my screen. So everyone will just have to imagine. I think everybody is familiar with the property. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? I do not have any.
As long as the footprint's the same.
It's getting enlarged a little bit, but it's within the existing lawn.
Can deal with that.
Looks fine to me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, enlarged 6 to 6.
Okay.
I move we issue a negative determination.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Second,
Thank you, Mark. Okay, unfortunately, we have to do a roll call. Tom, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mark?
I vote yes.
Ellen?
yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Is Henry on here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to number 2. Notice of intent for 74 Willow Road, demolition and renovation of the existing single-family home in land subject to coastal storm flowage. Mr. Dick?
It's me again. This is a pretty major renovation. There's a lot of work going on inside the house. There's a lot of deck around the existing house. And this is one of those situations where the coastal flooding extends far inland beyond the buffer zone, in fact, of coastal bank. If you're familiar with the site, 74 Willow Road is on the landward side of Willow Road. Across the street is another house. On the back of the other house is the coastal bank. The buffer zone doesn't reach all the way across Willow Road. So we are dealing here only with that odd little resource called land subject coastal storm flowage. And the applicant, at the suggestion of the building inspector, I believe, decided on his own to install screw pilings rather than sonotubes. So the effects are even more minimal than you might imagine. There's a slight change in the footprint of the deck. There is, as far as I can determine, the same number of supports, but some of the sonotubes are compromised. Some of the sonotubes weren't, in fact, sonotubes at all, but they were concrete blocks. So in those instances, there will be screw piles replacing them. And that's the size of it. This will be a determination of applicability, except for the fact that we're in a coastal resource area known as land subject coastal storm flowage. All lawn, no changes of grade, no changes of impervious cover. The only change is in the footprint of the deck. And I think the area change is in a couple of tens of square feet.
I had a question, Tom. I noticed on the town assessor's maps that there's a 10-foot easement on the, I guess I'd call it the east side of the property. That's a stormwater easement for the town, and it looks like it's in use. I mean, there are pipes that run up to the white way behind it. It almost looks like the existing deck or stairs on that side are probably within 10 feet of the border. So I'm wondering if anybody's made sure where the pipe is, so when they put in screw pilings, they're not going through one of the town sewer pipes.
My understanding there is that the pipe actually goes up the lot line, that there's a corresponding easement on the other side. I could be wrong about that, but yes, there is a pipe in that easement. And I would expect DigSafe would have to be notified even for screw piling installation.
Yeah, we intend to notify DigSafe for sure.
Do they evaluate for things other than gas and stuff? I mean,
DigSafe will mark
that's a town
anything that
pipe.
you tell them about. You know. It would be the Public Works Department that would mark it because they're the only ones who have any idea where it is.
Oh. And the other question I had, just that I think you answered it really, is underneath the deck today is just gravel or totally, it's like totally pervious surfaces. So there's no plans to change or put something underneath the deck.
Indeed not.
Okay.
No change in grade whatsoever.
All right, does anybody have any questions or concerns? Okay, seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to issue an order of conditions for the project?
I so move.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we need to do a roll call. Ellen, how do you vote?
Me, Ellen?
Yes, you, Ellen.
Yes. Okay.
Mark,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Eden? Yes. Colleen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
You make this job look easy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good night.
Okay. Next on the agenda, request for determination of applicability for 11 Emerald Road. Construction of an addition and deck in the buffer zone to land subject to coastal storm flowage. So I don't think there's anybody on here for this. The addition was constructed over the location of an existing deck. And then when they went to enlarge the deck, Wayne realized that this is in buffer zone and they needed to file. All the work is in existing lawn area. The addition's already constructed. Yeah. I don't have any concerns, but if anybody else from the commission does, feel free to chime in.
You were using audio device. Okay, so it's not on mute.
Okay, does anybody from the commission have any questions or concerns? No. Okay, do I hear a motion to issue a negative determination?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Ellen? Ellen? Steves? Might have lost her. Henry?
Yes.
Okay. Passes unanimously. On to number 4, enforcement action, 66 Willow Road, unpermitted work within bordering vegetated wetlands and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Mr. Simpson, do you want to talk about your situation?
I don't really have anything to add that's not in my letter to you from last week.
Okay. So on April 29th, Mr. Simpson sent an email to me wanting to do some work in wetlands. I didn't respond quickly enough, and he a week later started doing some work. Some of the neighbors pointed out to me that was going on. I asked him to stop work because it's a wetland, and then we've had a little back and forth about that since. The area is mapped as a wetland. It's also mapped as floodplain. And although the area is vegetated with Phragmites, it's a wetland and therefore protected by the Wetlands Protection Act. So basically what we need is either, Mr. Simpson, you need to file a notice of intent asking permission to make alterations to a wetland, or we need to stop touching it and let it grow back to what it was.
Okay, in my last letter to you, I asked, first of all, just for permission, just to continuing taking the trash out of there. Does that constitute an altering of the wetlands, just removing asphalt chunks and bottles and tires and stuff?
Technically, yes, it does. I think what we probably need to do is have a site visit and go take a look, so we can all be on the same page about what you can and cannot do. You know, unfortunately, the damage is already done because you already cut some of the Phragmites. So I guess it's determining whether or not it's acceptable at this point to do some removal of debris, or whether or not you need to come to before the commission. If you want to do anything additional to the wetland, you absolutely need to file with the commission.
I would second doing a site visit, Ms. Colleen Collins. And, you know, I support what he's written about the fact that Phragmites is considered an invasive species. Perhaps with a site visit, we can perhaps make recommendations of other native species that would, you know, absorb water, things like red swamp maples. Red swamp maples, when they reach their, if you go to the Audubon Preserve here in Nahant, there's several very good specimens of red swamp maples. And when they reach adult height, they, unlike a willow, which has shallow roots, red swamp maples have very deep roots, and they're native to this area, and they can absorb up to 2,000 gallons a day of water. So if you're really interested in a bit, you know, abating the flooding in that area, you need to look into trees that would solve some of the problems that you're having. But I see the dilemma you're in with Phragmites. It's a dilemma.
So I guess there's two things at issue here. One, yes, Phragmites is an invasive species. You're not allowed to plant it. It's a problem. It's not that the Phragmites is protected, it's that the wetland is protected and the Phragmites happens to be growing in it. So that's the distinction. From the Wetlands Protection Act point of view, it's a wetland plant. It provides habitat for wildlife, whether that's nuisance wildlife or not. And so it's a protected resource area regardless, and you need a permit to alter it. Even if it's a positive alteration, you would need a permit.
I agree, but maybe what we could help with the homeowner is some kind of phased proposal of ways to mitigate. That's all. I mean, homeowners understandably don't necessarily have all the answers to this. And even the Audubon group had difficulties with invasive species in the Audubon Preserve and have like done this proposal for phasing in better vegetation. And so I would say, rather than reject outright, we try to help counsel about what are the appropriate species to introduce.
My opposition is not to removal of the Phragmites per se. It's that we're setting a precedent here. You know, you altered a wetland without permission. All of the houses along there have a similar circumstance. Phragmites spreads underground and by roots. It can be treated chemically or mechanically, which is, you know, application of pesticides or digging it up. Otherwise, there is no way to eradicate Phragmites. So we need to be careful about giving the people along here carte blanche to do that. I understand that the coyotes are a problem. There's somebody else that just recently asked to put up a fence because of the coyotes and the Phragmites. So I think everybody would be best served by a site visit. We could take a look at what's going on and come up with a plan on how to move forward.
Yeah, I welcome a visit and some advice. I think I've asked for advice in every letter that I've written to you. And just for the record, I don't think that I've harmed the Phragmites at all. All I did was knock down some of the dead old growth from last year to get at the trash and pile it up. I haven't tried to remove any of it or dig it up or anything yet.
And can I just say, from my wearing my doctor hat, please don't, you know, you'll find online that one of the ways to treat Phragmite roots is to use Roundup. I think we all know that Roundup's been associated with lymphoma, so don't try that route.
No, I stated in my letter that I preferred not to use any chemicals in anything that I do.
Okay, so why don't we do this?
Kristen,
Why don't
may
we
I
set
speak?
up? Yeah.
This is Susan Gilbert. We're Bob and I are abutters to Mark's property, and the issue goes beyond just his clearing the Phragmites. his neighbor has systematically, over the last several years, cleared a huge swath of Phragmites and extended the lawn to the point where now our flooding is much worse than it used to be. So we're concerned only in the fact that whatever they do to alter their yards is affecting us from ocean storms.
Yep.
And I did submit a picture of the March 3rd, 2018 flooding that we got from an ocean storm. It rushes through their houses, but it comes right up to our property line now, and we were protected by the wetlands Phragmites. And it's kept our yard at an elevation above where the Phragmites grow. So it's definitely a floodplain, and it definitely, whatever is done there is going to affect the value of our property.
So interestingly, by him doing this, it gives us the opportunity to go back there and take a look at what everyone's been doing. And if we happen to find a violation on neighboring properties, it would be our opportunity to address that as well. So if some of the
Thank you.
neighbors have been extending their lawn and getting rid of wetlands, then we will notice and we'll have the opportunity to deal with that as well.
And it's not wetland growth, it's regular green lawn.
Well, if Phragmites was there before, it was at some point a wetland. We have some wetland mapping that goes behind all those houses, so we know where the wetlands are.
Right, but what I mean is what's been planted is green lawn, not other wetland species.
That's okay, we'll still be able to tell. Okay, so why don't we do this? If everyone's in favor, I'd like to set up a site visit so we can go out there and we can take a look, and then we can kind of come up with a plan and go from there.
Second that. I second that.
Okay. So Mr. Simpson, what we'll do instead of having everybody sit here while we go through our calendars, we'll come up with a couple dates and I'll email you, and then we can pick one for us to come out and take a look. It'll probably be a weekend if that works for you.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So let's make a motion to continue. Would somebody be willing to make that motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tom?
Aye.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Mr. Simpson, I will shoot you an email in the next couple days as soon as I get some dates from the commission.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Okay, number 5, continued notice of intent for 430 Nahant Road, DEP file number 0470580, construction of a new building on the existing bunker and 2 new parking areas and associated appurtenances. I don't know if somebody from Northeastern wants to jump on.
Yes. Hi, Madam Chairman. This is Dwight Dunk with Epsilon Associates.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's disappointing that we can't share screens.
We can.
Oh, we can. Great.
Yes, I was able to sign in.
Okay.
Just a second. I'll give you permission.
Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, great. As I emailed you earlier today, we had the site visit with commission members a couple of weekends ago on a beautiful Sunday morning. And, during that meeting, site visit, there was some good discussion. And really tonight, I just wanted to focus on 2 items. We did receive the peer reviewers' comments, and, we're going to work through those. And with that, we just wanted to discuss these 2 design items that we talked about at the site visit, so we can prepare one package, address those comments and make any plan changes, and make sure that these changes that we're talking about are on board with what you all were thinking at the site visit. Can you see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay, great. First, as you mentioned at the site visit, along this northerly edge of the access road, you can see that there's gravel there. People park there for overflow parking now. When the new building is built, there'll be no need for parking there. So what was asked for and what we can accommodate is putting in a drainage swale along that edge of the drive, so that water that's sheeting off the road is collected in the drainage swale, can infiltrate. If it overflows, then it overflows, but it's had a chance to infiltrate pond before going into the green and then out the culvert to the beach.
Okay.
So we had talked about that at the site visit. Just want to make sure this concept is what you are thinking.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Certainly an
Okay.
improvement.
Great. Great. Number 2 is the southerly parking lot. There you go. Is the southerly parking lot. And, the peer reviewers had talked about, using this parking lot and converting it to a pervious parking lot. And in discussions with the university, actually this had been discussed previously, and, there's always, give and take, pros and cons. There's obviously some maintenance issues when we talk about this type of a parking lot versus a paved parking lot. But some of this area is definitely going to be used for regular parking. Others would be more for an overflow. So the idea here is to use about half the parking lot, convert it to a pervious parking lot, so that we get more pervious cover on site, greater infiltration. I'm just looking for the detail here on the sheet, and that way I think it meets what the peer reviewers were asking for. Here we go, and also accommodates the university's needs in terms of parking. So that was another design change that was discussed during the site visit, and we'd like to make sure that this concept is what you all were thinking as we advance the drawing revisions for submission.
So it's hard to see the detail on this. So what are we talking about for pervious, like a concrete?
We're looking at the True Grid permeable paving system. It's more of like a plastic, gravel plastic. Then you infill with soil or planting medium and seed it. So it generally looks like a grass surface, but it has the stability that would be required for parking occasionally.
And for heavy loads too, if needed.
Okay. I think that would be great.
Okay.
Colleen, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So, many comments to the Lynn item have focused on the scope of the project. For comparison, I want to just speak about the Audubon Preserve, which is 4.5 acres. They have 1 parking spot. Last meeting, I asked about the building occupancy, and this speaks to how many parking spots you need. And you said, we don't need to answer that because we're just talking about the building and whether it impacts on the barrier or the border zone. And in fact, when you build a building of this scope that is an extension both horizontally, 11,000, and you said last meeting, you're 11,000 square feet beyond the Murphy bunker, and there's going to be vertical rise. So when you have a building of this scope, let's think of Macy's department store, the building at the Burlington Mall. We're all familiar with that. It's surrounded by parking lot, and that's so it can accommodate a building occupancy that's quite high. So I look at the Audubon Preserve, and you see 4.5 acres with 1 parking space. You have 20 acres, and you're building well beyond that. And yet you still don't come up with specifics about how many people you plan to park. And whether, down the road, you're going to say, oh, gee, based on our building occupancy, we need more parking spots. We want a parking garage now, 10 years from now. So I think that the actual building occupancy and what it takes to sustain a sustainability center is very important.
We came tonight prepared to discuss these design changes that we were discussed at the site visit to get feedback on these design changes in meeting what was requested. The number of parking lots on the site, as I understand, is a zoning board of appeals action. And in terms of meeting the zoning board of appeals, what we have tonight before you is work that's within land subject to review by the Conservation Commission. This this pervious parking lot is the majority of this area that is within land subject to review by the Conservation Commission.
Except that the peer reviewers, and I appreciate if you haven't fully reviewed what the peer reviewers submitted, but I reviewed them this afternoon when they were sent to us. And this LSCS, or land subject to coastal storm flowage, is directly impacted by the amount of pavement, the amount of paving that you're doing. And they said that you have to meet, it can't be more than 5,000 square feet, and you're 3 times that. You've exceeded that by 3 times. So it just seems that this very small, change in permeability is not going to be sufficient to meet the requirements of staying under the 5,000 square feet that you have to abide by in an area that's a wetlands protected area.
When we respond to the peer reviewer comments for the next before the next hearing, we will address that as applicable.
So I think I can address that quickly too, if you don't mind. And Colleen, thank you very much for your comments. We did meet the peer reviewers on site to address some of these specific issues. And your comment earlier about occupancy, while I agree with Dwight said, this really is a zoning board issue. We do specify our occupancy in the ENF and the EIR. We state that there are 220 proposed occupants, 228, I forget the exact number, but certainly we'll go back and look for that. And our parking lot requirements are in compliance with the Nahant zoning bylaw. So again, this isn't a number that we're making up here. This is something that we're working to comply with zoning bylaw. But as you can see from the plan that's on the screen here and the comments that are made by the peer reviewers, we are actively looking at being creative about how to maintain occupancy, or maintain compliance, but at the same time reduce our overall impact. And you're correct that there is that 5,000 square foot threshold, but we also need to make note here that we are in compliance with all of the performance standards of the wetlands bylaw and the state wetlands protection act. So I think that's also an important point to note here.
But I think also to Colleen's point, one of the things that technically is required before you come to the Conservation Commission is you have all your other permits, because that dictates your final site design. So, you've chosen to come to us before you go to zoning, but zoning may wish to see a reduced parking accommodation. So it may, you came to us first, and maybe, you get
I know
the,
it's a chicken or egg
but
situation.
that's what the law says. So it certainly is a fair question, because you came to us first, assuming probably because you want to get a full, you either want us to say yay or nay on the parking, right? And then you play it one way or the other to zoning. But the other point is, if you are impacting more than 5,000 square feet of the buffer zone to land subject to coastal storm flowage, that's considered a threshold under the bylaw. And I haven't seen it addressed anywhere, unless I've missed it, how you are complying with that, or how that's going to affect the values that are detailed in the bylaw.
Just one important point, we're not seeking zoning relief.
Right.
So that's really why we haven't been to the Board of Appeals yet. But I mean, again, we comply with the performance standards that are set forth in the zoning bylaw and the State Wetlands Protection Act.
What about
Only based on the buffer
bylaw?
zone.
What about the Nahant?
Right, now our work is only in the buffer zone.
No,
your buffer zone to land subject to coastal storm flowage, or the buffer zone to wetlands?
So let us, we have addressed this. let us, as I said before, when we started, we, because of receiving the peer reviewers' comments and wanting to submit one complete package, we wanted to talk about these two items tonight. That's what we prepared, came prepared to discuss. So let us go through all of the response to comments that we've made already, that we, the comments that we've received, and we will address all of these issues. One of the first round of comments from Mr. McManus was the topic of applying for or seeking other town permits. And the response that we provided was that the attorneys have looked into these matters and determined that no other town permits are needed for the project as designed. That's why the notice of intent is submitted. But let us, go through all of these issues and address them in the written response to comments to the reviewers before the next June hearing in June.
Let me just add one more thing. When you get the answers for a number of these things we've talked about in compliance with, how about sharing the math? Rather than just saying it's in compliance, show us the math. The zoning says this, we're multiplying these number of people times this space and that meets the zoning, rather than just saying it's in compliance. Similarly, the comment I made on our walk for the Seawater, show us the math behind the OSHA requirements that we make a pumping station that's about 10 times bigger than the size of the pumps.
So, Mr. Patek, I believe that all of that is in our NOI. We've outlined all of the impact in the NOI.
You say, I'm just saying the answer is it meets OSHA, answer is it meets zoning, but you don't show the math behind it or the OSHA requirements that says you need this many square feet or this many feet around everything. It supports the statement that it's required by zoning, required by, and I'm asking for the math, and then, we could be much more comfortable with, what it is. And that also would allow us to put in conditions. I mean, if the math is such that if you exceed 229 people, you have to come back to ComCon for more parking, then the math is behind it.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, Amy Questle, Town Council. I also, along these lines, it would be helpful to get something in writing from the applicant as to why, why they are not subject to the Nahant zoning bylaw 9.09A, which is site plan review for religious and educational uses, etc. So if we could get something from them as to why they're not subject to that, that would also be very helpful in writing. That would be very helpful.
From a more technical perspective, now that we have the plans in the same scale, I noticed that the wetland, I don't know if the wetland was flagged 2 different times, but it's 2 different shapes on the 2 different filings, and the numbering is different on the 2 different plan sets. So that's something I'd like to see addressed. The shapes are different, the numbering is different. If we're issuing an order, we're confirming the boundaries of the wetlands, and I want to make sure that they match and that they're both correct.
We'll double check that the correct boundary was submitted with the notice of intent drawings, but we'll check that.
Well, they're 2 different. The Seawater and the CSI are different.
Okay,
We'll
check.
Yeah, thank you for the 1 inch equals 20 feet, but that allowed us to see that sort of thing.
Okay, so are there any other comments from the commission at this point?
Well, I think that what my central question would be is if you really have not had a chance to go through many of the things that the peer reviewers raised. I mean, they used the word substantiate. There were several things they felt you needed to substantiate. if you feel you have not done that yet, should we make a motion to continue this until you've had a chance to address some of those things like wildlife habitat, some of the other things, your statement that there will be no pollutants, but you don't describe the outflow and what the content of the outflow is. There were very specific things that the reviewers wanted you to address. And maybe if it's true that you haven't really had a chance to review them and address them, then maybe we should just make a motion for a continuance so we don't have a meeting till midnight like we did, a couple weeks, 4 weeks back.
Correct. Madam Chair, may I just respond that yes, initially when we started this, we identified that we were going to have a continuance. We wanted to review these items with you to make sure that we're on the same page. So we expected to request a continuance for the June meeting. Number two, we did respond to all of the first round of questions and comments by the peer reviewers. We received the response from those. There were many of the items that were noted by the peer reviewers as, comment adequately addressed, and they did identify other ones that were primarily stormwater related, and therefore we will go through the second round of comments and provide that response for the June meeting. So yes, we, if, on behalf of the applicant, we do request a continuance to a date and time certain for the next meeting.
Okay, before we do that, does anybody else from the commission have any questions or concerns they'd like to raise about the CSI building? Would either of our peer review consultants wish to chime in on the review?
Hi, this is Paul McManus. Given the fact that we're not really delving into it, I don't think it's really worth the time beyond, what I've submitted in writing at this point.
Okay, that works for me.
But
Sean, same position?
Same position, yes.
Okay. Okay. So that being the case, let's, do I hear a motion to continue this to the next meeting?
I'll move to continue.
Thank you, Eden.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, and we need to do a roll call. Eden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes, to continue.
Mark?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Ellen? Ellen seems to have gotten lost, maybe, or I muted her. Okay, so passes unanimously. Okay, next up, number 6, the continued notice of intent for 430 Nahant Road, DEP file number 0470582, replacement of the existing seawater intake lines, pump house, and discharge system.
Yes, good evening, Dwight Dunk, with Epsilon Associates, on behalf of the Northeastern University. Similar to the previous one, we've received the second round of peer reviewer comments. We request a continuance to address those. In addition to those, the two items that came up during the site walk, which were alluded to at the previous hearing just a minute ago, was one, the location of the intake line. We'll address that in writing, but the alignment does need to be in a straight line to maximize the hydraulics. So in terms of shifting it over, putting in bends and whatnot, adversely affects the hydraulics in operation of the system.
Okay.
But we'll provide that in writing. And then in terms of OSHA, I think in terms of the Conservation Commission exerting jurisdiction over occupational safety and health is a little extra jurisdictional, but we can provide, we'll talk to the design engineers as to the design standards and requirements for a below ground station like that.
I don't think we're concerned about the specifics of OSHA so much as what dictates the size of the footprint, which is within our jurisdiction,
Correct.
just to clarify.
But, right, but in talking with the engineers, that's a big part of the design system is making sure that it is a safe work environment for people that have to go in, repair, maintain that system.
I would just like to
I'll
echo.
talk to the engineers and get that information.
Okay, thank you, Dwight. Go ahead, Colleen.
I would just like to echo what Mark Paddock said earlier about coming back with some math. So for instance, the reviewers said that in terms of the elevation of velocity of floodwaters, the reviewer said, in my opinion, this conclusion should be better substantiated. They want to actually know the velocity of floodwater flow that you're proposing. They want to know, you state that there will be no pollutants will be introduced into the outflow. And they say this statement should be better substantiated. How have you substantiated that there are no pollutants in the outflow? So all of the things, I think I really would agree with Mark that you need to come back with the math and with more. The reviewer also commented on having more sampling. You essentially just sampled on 2 days and didn't provide enough data points for us to make any conclusions about the outflow. So I would second what Mark said about in this portion of the project, coming back with more math.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Mark, did you want to chime in?
Just one other thing, we brought it up on our walk, and I looked at the plans again. There is no indication anywhere on the plans that I can find that identify the previous set of pipes, which have been committed to be removed twice. So I really want to see those identified on the maps. They're not there as far as.
So we want those added to the plan and a note to be removed.
Yes, please. Just so
Mark,
they
they
don't
are
slip
on
through the
page
cracks.
C301. I see a note, existing seawater pipes to be removed.
No,
but those are the ones in use right now. I'm talking about the ones that were in use 10 years ago that are still there that were supposed to have been removed.
Yeah, there is the second set that was never removed. Needs just so it's noted, just so that this mistake doesn't happen again and doesn't slip through the cracks.
Yep.
Okay, anything else from the commission? Anything from the public? Peer reviewers, same deal. Not worth delving into. We can do it next time once they've given some additional information.
I think that makes the most sense.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay. That being the case, do I hear a motion to continue this to our next hearing?
So move.
Thank you. Second?
I second it.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, Colleen, how do you vote?
Yes,
Sorry.
for the yes for the continuance.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I
for
may,
the
if I may, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
What is the date of your next meeting?
The next meeting will be June 16th.
So unfortunately, you are going to have to continue to a time and a date and a place certain because the governor's the state of emergency is going to end on June 15th.
Okay.
And so the March 15th order suspending the open meeting law will terminate with the state of emergency as of right now. Obviously, we don't know what the governor is going to do. He might extend the March 15th order regarding the open meeting law, but because we don't know that, we need to be safe.
Okay.
And so unfortunately, we have to continue this to a date, time, and place certain.
Okay. So it would be June 16th at 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall unless otherwise advertised. Is that sufficient?
That is sufficient. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So Colleen voted yes. Mark, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Ellen? Still not here. Okay. And I vote yes as well. Okay. So our next meeting, like I said, is June 16th, 7:30 p.m. It'll be at Town Hall unless otherwise posted. Do I hear a motion to close the meeting?
They're just closing the meeting.
I so move.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you, Henry. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I am in favor as well. Okay, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Good
Have a good
night.
night.
Good night.
Good night.